All right, let's dive into India's economic game plan for 2026. It's really a tale of two halves. On one side, you have this incredible economic power, and on the other, this immense global peril. It's all about a plan to build a fortress of prosperity just as a massive global storm is gathering on the horizon.
And this really gets to the heart of the matter. At home, the economic engine is absolutely firing on all cylinders, setting speed records. But on the outside, the world is looking more unstable than it has in decades. So this whole strategy is about one thing: how to use that internal power to build a shield against all the chaos happening out there.
So first things first, let's just establish how strong that domestic engine really is. Because we're not just talking about good numbers, we're talking about some truly mind-boggling figures that show some serious momentum.
Okay, let's start with the headline number. The government has revised its growth forecast up to a massive 7.6%. Now, that's not just a statistic, right? It's a huge signal of an economy with incredible underlying strength. It's expanding at a pace that, frankly, most other big economies can only dream of right now.
And all that growth is pushing India towards a pretty historic milestone, a $4 trillion economy. So, why does that number matter? Well, think about it. A bigger economy means more tax revenue for the government without having to raise your tax rates. And that's what funds better roads, modern railways, and world-class public services.
Now, you might be thinking these higher numbers are just wishful thinking, but they're not. They're actually the result of a massive statistical upgrade. India changed the base year it uses to calculate GDP. The best way to think of it is like upgrading the operating system on your phone. Suddenly, all the data gives you a clearer, more accurate picture, and it turns out the economy is even stronger than we thought.
To understand this next point, we got to wrap our heads around a crucial idea: potential growth. Honestly, it's just like a car's speed limit. Sure, you can floor it for a little while, but if you go way too fast for too long, what happens? The engine overheats. In an economy, overheating means crazy high inflation that just burns right through your savings.
And this is the big reveal. The government has officially declared that India's economic speed limit has actually been raised to 7%. So the key takeaway here is that this isn't some temporary boom. The entire economic engine has been structurally upgraded. It can now grow faster, for longer, without triggering that destructive inflation.
Okay, so we've seen the fortress, and it looks pretty strong. But now we have to talk about the storm. Because while things look great at home, the latest economic survey is sounding a massive alarm about the state of the world.
I mean, this is a shockingly blunt assessment to hear from the government. They are officially putting the odds at 10 to 20% for a global crisis next year that could be even worse than the 2008 financial crash. Now, this isn't about creating panic. It's a very clear-eyed call for extreme national preparedness.
So what could set it off? Well, the report points to three huge threats that are all converging at once. First, a potential AI investment bubble bursting. Second, something called geoeconomic fragmentation, basically global trade breaking into rival warring factions. And third, a mad scramble for critical resources. Any one of those is a huge threat. All three happening at once? That could be a catastrophe.
So, the big question is, how does India plan to defend itself against all that? Well, by resurrecting and giving a totally modern spin to an old idea: Swadeshi, or self-reliance. This is the absolute core of the defense strategy.
And this quote from the chief economic advisor, V. Ananta Nageswaran, just says it all. In a world where trade is now being used as a weapon, self-reliance isn't just about patriotism anymore, it's about survival. And that signals a really fundamental shift in national policy. But look, this isn't about going back to old-school protectionism. Not at all. It's actually a really smart, disciplined strategy with three tiers. For the really critical stuff like defense and life-saving medicines, the goal is total self-reliance. For high-potential sectors like electronics, it's about becoming a global champion. And for everything else, imports continue. It's a surgical approach, not a sentimental one.
But having an ambitious plan is one thing. Actually making it happen requires something more. It requires a government that has been re-engineered from the ground up to actually deliver on these promises.
So what does this transformation look like? It's really a shift away from that passive, slow-moving bureaucracy of the past to a more active, agile, entrepreneurial state. It means moving away from just buying the cheapest option to investing in real quality, and shifting from a culture of constant inspection to a system that's actually based on trust. But even with a whole new model of governance, there's a huge challenge on the horizon: artificial intelligence. I mean, for a country with the world's largest youth population, AI isn't just another tech trend. The chief economic advisor actually calls it a stress test of our state capacity.
So what's the plan? It's basically a four-part strategy. 1. Overhaul education to focus on skills AI can't copy, like critical thinking. 2. Massively upskill the workforce to use AI as a tool, not see it as a threat. 3. Boost service sectors that need a human touch, like tourism and healthcare. And 4. Carefully manage the rollout of AI to avoid any sudden, massive job losses.
This blueprint also includes some very direct interventions designed to protect the average Indian household. And we're talking about protecting two very important things: your financial wealth and your physical health from some pretty hidden dangers.
First off, the government is getting deeply concerned about the explosion in speculative stock market trading by ordinary people. The CEA put it about as bluntly as you can. He called it a casino, saying you can never beat the casino. They are planning to crack down to protect middle-class savings from basically being gambled away on super high-risk bets. The second threat is to our public health. Just look at these numbers. Between 2006 and 2019, sales of ultra-processed junk food in India skyrocketed by more than 40 times. That's not just a business trend, it's the engine driving a massive public health crisis, from obesity to diabetes.
And the planned response is pretty aggressive. It's a three-pronged attack. First, a high sin tax to make junk food way more expensive. Second, clear, explicit warning labels on the front of packages, not those confusing star ratings. And third, a ban on junk food ads during the hours when kids are most likely watching.
So when you put all of these pieces together, the economic firepower, that defensive Swadeshi shield, the new style of governance, the targeted interventions, it all starts to point toward a single, really powerful goal. The objective here isn't just to survive the global storm. It's something much, much bigger.
And that brings us to the ultimate ambition. It's about making India so deeply woven into global supply chains, so critical to the world economy, that it becomes indispensable. The final question isn't just whether India can protect itself, but whether it can become the stable anchor in what looks to be an increasingly fractured world.